Right, this is Daredevil 192 by Alan Brennert and Klaus. This is a one-off issue, a fill-in issue some might say, that comes directly after the landmark run by Hank Miller. We mostly start, we focus on, we feature the supporting character Lars Ulrich. He is a reporter for the Daily Planet newspaper, and he is investigating a story about corruption, as he often does. And lucky for him, Daredevil stops a sniper who was sent to try and intimidate and silence Lars Ulrich. Daredevil is in this, don't worry. But there is no real disguise that our story is about Lars Ulrich. I will be explaining who he is and his history. But first, I want to talk again about Alan Brennert and the work of Alan Brennert. Alan Brennert has only written about 12 comics over 40 plus years. I have them all now, I think. He is mainly known as a screenwriter and an author. He wrote for The Outer Limits. I think that is his big TV credit. He also wrote for The Twilight Zone, the 80s version of it, LA Law, Simon and Simon, and actually the Linda Carter Wonder Woman show. He has written several novels, most of them about Hawaii. His comics work, let's run through it now. Detective Batman 500 is his first one. A bit more blunt than the rest of his work. It is still a nice It's a Wonderful Life style story with Batman. One of his most famous comics is The Wedding of Batman and Catwoman, The Bold and the Beautiful 197. He wrote that issue about Spit and Swallow, that issue that was decanonised, even though it remains probably the best story to ever use Spit and Swallow. The Death of Victor Strange. He has mostly written Batman, if you haven't gotten the clue. The issue with the Creeper, that would be what everyone would say is his weakest offering. But it has Batman fight a sheet of paper. Even his worst comic is a different kind of amazing. Holy Terror, not the racist Hank Miller 9/11 comic. Holy Terror was originally a story by Alan Brennert and Norman Bifocals, and it was the first ever DC comic to officially use the Elseworlds branding. Batman, Green Lanterns, Black and White, that's what I don't have. I don't have that one. He wrote the best dead boy story ever written. He did an amazing job with a story about Canary's mum dying. And his most recent credit was the phenomenal Marvel Snapshot Seaman, with equally as impressive art by Jeremy Ordinary. Of course, we have Daredevil as well. he did this issue. Last time I reviewed one of his comics, I said something incredibly tacky about how he packs a lot of life into a comic. And now I have come up with something even more cringy to say. Alan Brennert doesn't write characters, he writes people. I'm saying it with some irony because it is an incredibly lousy type of review that says things like that. But it is, all sarcasm removed, actually true. I don't think he sits down and thinks of Lars Ulrich or his wife Doris as characters in a story. He tries to think of them as people and what they would be thinking or doing as people. Marvel have collected Hank Miller's run a dozen times over, and what might be the most complimentary thing to say is that they could and should include this fill-in issue as a bonus, and it would hold up just as much as Hank Miller's stuff. I would go as far to say that it is better than Hank Miller. From a writing standpoint, absolutely. I don't have the greatest connection to Daredevil characters. I have read all of his first 512 issues, and it just didn't really do much for us. This one makes a bloody strong argument for Lars Ulrich as a much more compelling and well-rounded character than I remembered. He's always been this neat little side character, someone with morals and ethics, and a nice civilian counterpart to Daredevil's crusades. I think the character that benefits the most from this is his wife Doris. She doesn't get much page time in this, and in general never did in Daredevil comics. But Alan Brennert naturally makes her feel like a character we have been reading about for years, and a character we understand. Our main story is a side-by-side investigation into the mob by Daredevil and then Lars Ulrich. Although he is out hunting here, now to do with the mob on this page, at least yet. Lars Ulrich is, as said before, a reporter for the Daily Planet newspaper, and he was invented not by Hank Miller, like everyone would wrongly assume, but by Slurms Mackenzie and John Coleman, and he first appeared in Daredevil 153. I like this because it continues my narrative of Slurms Mackenzie being undervalued for his contributions to Daredevil and comics in general. Of course, yeah, Slurms Mackenzie and Hank Miller, and later just Hank Miller, used Lars Ulrich to great effect in Daredevil. The key story being when he deduced Daredevil's secret identity as Ben Matlock, and he asks Daredevil to describe a photo to him, and Daredevil cannot answer because he is blind, like Matlock. The crucial part of the story, the heart of the tale, is that in the end, he decides not to reveal Daredevil's secret identity to the public because Daredevil is a force for good. He continues to appear in Daredevil as a major supporting character afterwards, often trying to report on or find incriminating information to bring down Kingpin Man. He also starts to make appearances within the Spider-Man books due to his staff position at the Daily Planet. I was curious when he first appeared in a Spider-Man book, and that was it there. Unsurprised to learn it was Hank Miller, Amazing Spider-Man Annual 15. As always, there is more to cover with Lars Ulrich's history, but I like to break it up. Here he is looking to move because Doris isn't happy being stuck in the apartment all day, and they cannot really afford this house, but she has fallen in love with Alan Brennert goes to town with Daredevil's radar sense. He seems to really get into exploring Daredevil's hypersensitivity. Apparently, Daredevil was Alan Brenner's favourite Marvel hero, and I would assume Batman is his favourite DC one, since that is where most his DC work lies. Oh god, this bit, I love this bit. Daredevil, he comes calling for Lars at his apartment, and Doris gets a fright. Great sequence. I try not to say so in my reviews of his comics, but I wish Alan Brennert wrote a lot more comics. He would keep coming back to comics every now and then, but never had any intention or designs to write them full time. Although on Daredevil, Alan Brennert was planning to do another issue 195, but his telework increased, and so he didn't write that issue, but it did use his plot. I might track that one down as well. It might be the case that what little we have is all the greater for the gestation periods between them. Maybe more Alan Brennert would only equals a decline in quality. But I will say there is very little in his comics that doesn't feel, in some sense, revolutionary. For 1982, this largely visual piece with Doris, it seems like something we weren't getting around to until 1987 or 86. But it is here where Lars's investigation starts to flare up. One of our inciting incidents for this was his discovery that another news hound might be on the payroll of the mobsters, and it turns out that person was indeed covering for the mob in the news. Here he confronts Jimmy, the publisher in question, and really this is fantastic. I wish more people had read this. All the people who have read Hank Miller's run, they should read this as well. This is a wonderful story. Another idea we have is Lars is facing someone that he looked up to, and he is learning that they are corrupt. And the whole thing is a very human story. And really that is what Lars provides to Daredevil comics. I'll do the rest of his history before we get to the big conflict in the issue. Lars Ulrich's second major wind came again in Daredevil, much later on. Michael Brian Benson used them quite a lot, which also brings us to the fact that in the 2000s, he stars in several titles. There is the Benson one about Benson's pet character. He is a starring character in that. And moreover is the Frontline books by Richard Jenkins, of which there are a few. And he is the lead character in all of those. It's also where Speedy Bowels becomes Spiky Bowels. I will absolutely look at that issue one day. In the modern age, Lars Ulrich's main story arc is him locking horns with Norman Osborn and becoming one of his main detractors. He pens a book exposing Norman Osborn's secret identity and history as the Green Gobbler. And outside of the superheroes, Lars Ulrich becomes Norman Osborn's personal antagonist. A footnote in Lars's history, and it shouldn't be really, he is the uncle to Skeet Ulrich. They pronounce their surnames different. The 90s Green Gobbler, the one who tried to be a hero. Lars co-stars in that short-lived series as a supporting character. It would also seem appropriate to say Skeet Ulrich Green Gobbler is a major character in Spider-Woman and the McTwo books. So, our main dilemma in this issue here is Kingpin Man. Say hello to Kingpin Man, everyone. We do get plenty of Daredevil in an issue that is obviously led by Lars Ulrich. It is a bribe. Lars Ulrich is in a position where he is as much as offered a bribe. That house, remember that house that his wife loved? Well, that is the enticement. Kingpin Man, he wants to own Lars Ulrich. So, we are really challenging his ethics here. Is he going to stay true to his sense of moral obligation? Or is he going to take the house to satisfy his wife? The resolution is a bit of a foregone conclusion because we know Lars Ulrich continues to appear with morals and ethics. His wife understands and doesn't want her husband to sell out or compromise his ideals. I think she eventually dies off panel. Without a doubt, one of the best Daredevil stories ever published right here. It is a simple, down-to-earth story about one of the book's main supporting characters, and it perfectly summarises and showcases said character in full glory. I recommend it intensely with a 7 thumbs up.